Have you tried everything to lose weight, but you can't get your scale to budge after 40? Even though most people believe weight loss comes down to some strict diet you still haven't mastered, while exercising hard enough to make sweat angels on the gym floor, nothing could be further from the truth. Even though I thought I was doomed since I could only get my scale to go up once I hit 40, I finally figured out the perfect routine that helped me lose 50 pounds. And for the first time ever, I don't struggle to keep it off. So in this video, I'll show you the exact routine I followed to lose 50 pounds in my 40s. And since the way you lose weight should be the habits you follow forever, I'll also show you how I adjusted my routine over time so I easily maintain my goal body year after year. But first, let me tell you where I was health-wise when I started this routine so you can understand the changes I needed to make to lose weight. The 42-year-old woman shown here, even though this was only 3 years ago, this woman isn't nearly the same person as this woman talking to you today. Because this woman spent the previous 30 years being beaten down by a diet industry that thrives on contradicting advice, which only leads to yo-yoing weight. In fact, just a few years before this photo, I was coming off of a successful run with keto and intermittent fasting where I lost more than 100 pounds. I let the diet influencers convince me that following a low carb and fasting combo for the rest of my life was the only way to keep the weight off, which is the reason I ignored the daily migraines, chronic exhaustion, and extreme chemical sensitivities that came from following these stressful diets for too long. I continued fasting through migraines and cutting carbs through exhaustion because I thought that was the only way to stay healthy. But after spending thousands of dollars trying to figure out why I always felt so bad, I realized that these diets didn't leave me so healthy after all. The 50 pounds I regained, even while sticking to strict rules, was proof of that. So this person had to unlearn 30 years of strict diet rules and instead focus on building a healthy lifestyle based on the way that I naturally lived. If you're someone who's sick of always being on a diet but never getting the results you want, then let me show you the small tweaks I made to finally get out of that restrictive diet lifestyle for good. Especially since making small tweaks to your current lifestyle is the best way to get results that last. When you only have to make small adjustments to the routine you already follow, instead of completely overhauling your life, there is a much better chance that you'll actually keep the weight off. Even though everyone else starts their story with how to master your morning, that's actually not the best place to start. Because if you don't get this first part right, good luck keeping up with all of the habits you need to form a successful plan. That's the reason having a solid nighttime routine is key to weight loss after 40. Because if you don't get a good night's sleep, you can forget about sticking to your calorie goal the next day or having energy to work out. Even just moving off the couch is a battle if you're lacking a good night's sleep. Since a moderate calorie deficit, more movement, and high quality sleep are all required for a successful fat loss plan, you do not want to phone in your nighttime routine. Even though fasting 20 hours or more each day completely destroyed my stress hormones, I still found value in not eating after dinner. One reason having a soft rule where I stopped eating after dinner was helpful is it meant that I wasn't constantly searching for late night comfort snacks that led me to overeat. Plus, not eating 3 hours before bed aids in better digestion. Since I previously learned that improving digestion makes weight loss way easier, I'm always looking for ways to keep my digestion running smoothly. Even though it took a while for me to get out of the mindset that I had to fast for long periods if I wanted to lose weight, at the time, my adrenals were completely wrecked. While researching how to unwreck them, I learned that I had to quit stressing my body out with strict diet rules, especially long periods of fasting. So while 20+ hour fast could no longer be part of my fat loss strategy, whenever I stopped eating 3 hours before bed, and then I didn't eat until 1 to 2 hours after waking up, that was only a 12 to 13 hour fast, which was the perfect length to help control my appetite while not putting too much stress on my body. I also limit water around 2 hours before bed so middle of the night bathroom breaks don't disrupt my sleep. Since there was a point I was waking up most nights around 2 or 3 and finding it difficult to get back to sleep, I listened to a Huberman episode about how to improve sleep. One of his tips was to take magnesium threonate before bed. So even though I limit water in the evening, I do take a few sips with 2 magnesium threonate capsules, which help me sleep through the night. One final habit I have before heading off to bed is to set out my workout clothes for the next day. Since I figured out that starting my day with a habit that moves me closer towards my goals was the best way to stay on track, putting my workout clothes on first thing makes it easier to not make excuses about getting my workout done, which at the time was a 45 to 60 minute walk, but we'll talk about how that routine has evolved in a minute. Also, when it was time for bed, that meant it was time for sleep. I quit spending an hour or 2 scrolling social media or catching up on my favorite shows in bed. Even though I previously believed this habit helped me unwind, I learned staring at a screen is one of the worst things you can do right before bed. So I made it a habit to get in bed by 9:30 each night, which meant I put my phone into airplane mode and I actually went to sleep at 9:30 since I knew that I had to get up early for my walk, which was easier to get done whenever I woke up at least an hour earlier than the rest of my house. Because let's face it, once my kids and husband are awake, nothing I need to do actually gets done. So I'd roll out of bed at 6 a.m., use the bathroom, hop on the scale for my daily weigh-in, and then immediately get dressed in workout clothes. Even though what the scale says doesn't really mean much as far as fat loss is concerned, weighing in every morning keeps me on track. Because who makes bad choices the day before when you know you have to step on the scale the next day? Plus, using a weekly weight average to see if my weight is trending up or down is data that's been very helpful with fine-tuning my plan. The routine I followed when I first set out to lose 50 pounds is much different than when I first started. Back then, I was still of the mindset that I had to burn all of the calories if I wanted to lose weight. So I'd wake up, get a dose of caffeine, and head out for a 60-minute walk. Once I got home, I made a protein shake and drank it while analyzing my goal tracker. Then I'd drop my kids off for school and head back to the gym to burn even more calories. While everyone has to start their journey somewhere, looking back, focusing on burning all of the calories isn't the best way to get results. The only good thing that came out of all of the time I spent on excessive cardio was I also spent that time learning how important building muscle was for a fat loss plan, and I spent my cardio time watching fat loss videos. This is when I finally began changing my beliefs that following extreme low-calorie diets were the answer to weight loss. I instead put together the routine I follow today that allows me to work way smarter instead of always working harder with 0 results. While I still got in that 60-minute walk most mornings, I used the free time I had after dropping my kids off to strength train instead. Even though, as seen in the data from my goal tracker, I didn't lose much weight those first few months, that's because I was gaining muscle while losing fat, which is exactly what you want to do for an effective fat loss plan that works long term. Even though my scale was being a jerk, I could tell my plan was working since I dropped an entire clothing size even when the scale only showed half a pound loss. Plus, I had way more energy and was sleeping better than I had in years. But I also had to learn that just because I had the time to strength train every day, that doesn't mean it was a good idea, since my body also requires time for rest and recovery. So I eventually cut back strength training to only 3 full body workouts each week, while using the other 4 days to work on mobility, which helps get out all of the creakies and achies that just happen after 40. Now that we're all stretched out, let's rewind back to the protein shake I made every morning. Before learning that starting my morning with at least 30 grams of protein is essential, my typical breakfast while struggling with yo-yoing weight was either a bagel with cream cheese, or some days I'd just grab a breakfast bar and eat it on the way to work. Even though these options are low calorie, there wasn't enough protein to keep me full past an hour or 2. When I couldn't stick to a low calorie plan for long before binging on everything I missed out on that day, I'd switch my approach to low carb, where my typical breakfast routine consisted of stopping at a gas station, grabbing a low-carb Monster and a bag of spicy peanuts. Yes, there was a time I believed that spicy peanuts and low-carb Monster were a healthy breakfast. As bad as that habit was, it just made my upgrade to a protein shake that much better. But instead of focusing on even more crappy processed foods, I use a high-quality protein powder while adding even more nutrients that keep me full until lunch. While there are more filling breakfast options than a protein shake, after nearly a decade of fasting through breakfast, I was never very hungry in the morning. Plus, my mornings are busy, so I needed a convenient way to get 30 grams of protein. To make this filling shake, I add 4 ounces of water, 4 ounces of coconut milk to make it creamy, 4 ounces of strawberries for flavor and energy, 0.3 ounces of MCT oil since I noticed that adding fat keeps me full longer. Then I add in the protein powder and this pre-workout powder for energy, which is also from Equip. I've experimented with other nutrient-dense ingredients over the years, like adding frozen green bananas, soaked chia seeds, or even a handful of spinach, all of which help me make my shake more filling. To make it easy to keep track of calories and protein, I added everything in my shake as a recipe and a chronometer. Since I drink the same shake most days, it only takes a few clicks to track breakfast, and I can easily track it while my shake blends, which is another important component of my daily routine. I've finally figured out that if I wanted to lose weight consistently, I had to be way more consistent with tracking everything I ate. Understanding where I'm at with meeting my calorie and protein targets throughout the day helps me make better choices. Because even though a mid-afternoon donut would hit the spot, it would also push me over my calorie goal while not leaving me enough room to hit my protein target. If the donut was really something I wanted, I still ate it since I no longer restricted anything I loved. But tracking before I eat allows me to make low-calorie, high-protein choices during the day, which helps me save treat calories for after dinner. That way, I can enjoy the donut guilt-free as long as I already hit my protein target, and having a treat doesn't push me over my calorie budget. Donut rants aside, let's get back to my morning routine, which never includes donuts. While I sat down to drink my protein shake, I'd also add my daily stats into my goal tracker from the day before. This is a fat loss system I created that I 100% credit to helping me stay on track to lose 50 pounds. Since I made it a morning habit to fill in my stats and then take time to analyze it once a week, I'm able to see which habits are helping me get closer to my goal and which habits I need to improve. Since the main components of a fat loss plan that works include eating less calories than you burn, but keeping your deficit at a moderate level so your plan is sustainable, I started tracking how many calories I ate, how big of a deficit I was in based on my daily activity, how many steps I took, how much protein I ate, my daily weight, and my body fat percentage. I set up this spreadsheet to average everything out for the week. That way, I could get a weekly picture of how well I stuck to the habits that really matter for fat loss. Watching my numbers improve week after week really motivated me to keep going. I also never wanted to miss a day of tracking because then the numbers wouldn't add up. Plus, I'm kind of OCD about spreadsheets and I like them to look pretty. Since this is a system that still keeps me on track more than 2 years later, without having to think about ever following another extreme diet again, I put everything I learned into my forever fat loss system. I'll add the link to the description in case this is something you want to use to stay on track with your fat loss goals. After my shake, I headed to the gym to work out or to work on mobility. Let me share a few details regarding strength training in case you're not sure where to start. When I first started, I wandered aimlessly through the machines that every gym has and just did what I thought would help, which means I ended up doing a ton of leg exercises. While I did see some initial progress, my results really took off when I started my first full body program from Mind Pump. While following these types of programs can be intimidating at first, the results are well worth the time you spend on learning proper techniques. Following a well laid out program helped me get much faster results in less time. These days, my schedule has changed to where I prioritize workout mobility right after waking up. So now my morning routine looks more like a daily weigh-in, followed by a protein shake, and then I stretch. Then I alternate my morning workout between strength training or a brisk walk. On the days I don't walk first thing, I work on staying active in other ways throughout the day in order to keep my steps in that 10,000 step per day range. But just because that works for my schedule, that doesn't mean it'll work for yours. Even if you can't get your workout done right after rolling out of bed, establishing a new habit like working out consistently works best when you aim to complete the habit within the first 8 hours of waking up, which is the reason I do my best to get a good chunk of my activity done as early as I can. That way I know it's done and I'm one step closer to my goal, or in this case, about 6,000 steps. Let's get back to the daily schedule I follow to lose 50 pounds. Once I got home from the gym, it was time for lunch, which I kept simple since I knew I was too busy to spend a lot of time cooking in the afternoon. Since sticking to a moderate calorie deficit is important for fat loss, I calculated my weight loss macros around 2,000 calories per day with a target of 150 grams of protein. After having a protein shake for breakfast, that meant I still had 1,700 calories left with 120 grams of protein to hit my target for the day. Since I knew I wanted to save room for an afternoon snack, plus I sleep better when dinner is my biggest meal, planning a lunch that comes in around 500 calories with at least 50 grams of protein kept me on track. I never even came close to hitting those macros with the lunches I thought were good enough back when I struggled with yo-yoing weight. Back then, I loved a simple salami sandwich with mayo on white bread with a side of chips. Looking at the macros in this meal, it's no wonder I could never reach my goals once I figured out how to bring calories down while pushing protein way up. That made sticking to my fat loss plan way easier. One habit I didn't even notice I was following at first, but made a big difference in terms of success this time around, was I didn't have a lot of variety in the first 2 meals of the day. Once I found something that fit my macros, that also kept me satisfied most of the afternoon, I typically ate the same meal on repeat, even on weekends, which means at the beginning I had a lot of turkey sandwiches. When I start with 2 slices of Dave's thin sliced bread, add 5 ounces of turkey deli meat, a half an ounce of cheese, some veggies, and spread on 0.2 ounces of mayo, that only adds up to 400 calories with 45 grams of protein, which saves room for a high protein side like this 000 Greek yogurt, which only adds 100 calories but brings my high protein lunch even higher, coming in at 500 calories with 62 grams of protein. Over time, I figured out other low-calorie, high-protein meals that take less than 10 minutes to put together and kept me on track, so I added those into my rotation. But I still usually cycled through the same few meals that I knew helped keep my hunger in check, which makes it way easier to stay on track. And I made it a habit to carefully measure and track every meal before eating, so I was sure that I wasn't overeating calories or undereating protein. That's another reason eating the same breakfast and lunch on repeat made it easy to stay on track. I didn't have to do calculations every day trying to fit new food combos into my macros. Because if a turkey sandwich and Greek yogurt helped me stick to my macros yesterday, then I knew that same meal would work today. Eating high protein meals that helped keep me satisfied longer also helped me stop one habit that was holding me back, since I no longer found myself in the kitchen every hour looking for another snack. Since I had a calorie budget to stick to, it was important to eat meals and snacks that were high in protein. That way, I felt full enough that I wasn't grabbing little bits of food all day long. Because even though those licks, bites, and nibbles seem innocent, they can definitely add up to a weight loss stall. But that doesn't mean I didn't have an afternoon snack, especially since low-calorie, high-volume snacks kept me on track until dinner. So sometime around 2 or 3, I'd have a snack that added another 200 calories to my daily total. My favorite afternoon snack is a big bowl of popcorn. For some people, popcorn is filling enough on its own since it's a high-volume, low-calorie food that also has fiber. But if you find yourself hungry even after eating all of this, A good trick I use is to eat a protein boost before digging into the popcorn. A protein boost can be as easy as grabbing a few ounces of leftover meat from the fridge or even an ounce of cheese. To make air pop popcorn less boring, once it's popped, I add half the popcorn into a bowl and give it a quick spray of olive oil spray. Then I sprinkle it with salt, or sometimes I even add ranch seasoning, and then I repeat with the rest of the popcorn. This tastes very similar to movie theater popcorn without all of the added calories. In this case, let's say I have an ounce of cheese and an ounce of air pop popcorn as a snack. All of this adds up to only 210 calories while adding another 11 grams of protein to my daily total, which means I'm only up to 985 calories with 102 grams of protein for the day. And that leaves me plenty of options for dinner. If I ever found myself hungry in between breakfast and dinner, I'd use tricks like drinking sparkling water in between meals, or I'd have a low-calorie coffee shake before noon, which makes a great appetite suppressant. While I already got a big chunk of steps earlier that day, I usually aim to get another 1,000 to 2,000 steps in while tidying up my house in the afternoon and then again in the evening. Even though it seems counterintuitive, moderate activity actually works as a great appetite suppressant, which means staying active throughout the day can help you stick to your calorie goal. Moving throughout the day is also important to boost your metabolism. Plus, a clean house just keeps your mind clear, which is just important for life. By the time dinner hit, while I was never overly hungry because I stayed on track with protein throughout the day, I still enjoyed a big meal since this left me with more options I enjoyed. Having a bigger meal with more carbs also helps me sleep better since it puts your body into an anabolic state, which is the state that you want to be in at night. But even though I varied my meals, I still planned every single meal around protein. Let's say something like tacos was on the menu. Even though tacos are easy to turn into a high protein meal, I previously filled up on the sides, like I'd have a big serving of rice. I'd also have 3 or 4 tortillas, and I overate chips and salsa whenever I just shoveled them in without measuring. Once you add cheese, sour cream, guacamole, and all of the extras, it can be really easy to overdo calories on taco night. But once I started paying attention to both calories and protein, it was easy to enjoy a satisfying Taco Tuesday by cutting back to only 1 large low-calorie tortilla that I stuffed with 5 ounces of lean taco meat. I save calories by skipping the cheese since I hardly taste it anyway after adding an ounce of sour cream. Then I load up my taco with plenty of filling veggies. Now, let's say your calorie budget isn't as hefty as mine is at 2,000 calories a day. You could easily enjoy your taco and still be under 1,400 calories while getting in 148 grams of protein. But since my moderate deficit falls at 2,000 calories a day, I don't want to stop at only 1,400 calories because I had to eat enough to build muscle without overdoing calories so I could also burn fat. And this left me with a choice. On days I felt really hungry, and it was in my best interest to eat a second taco to get even more filling protein while staying under my calorie goal. If I was tight on calories, just adjust the amount of meat and other fillings I use while making a second taco. Sometimes I'd even cut calories by only using half a tortilla. But if I'm not that hungry after spending the day filling up on protein, I'd often use my leftover calories for a treat like chips and salsa, which I measured out since eating them straight from the bag is never a good idea. But even if I get a hefty 1.5 ounce serving, I'm still only at 1,612 calories for the day, which meant I had room for a sweet treat, bringing my total to 1,703 calories with 153 grams of protein. A trick I use to have more of the foods I wanted is to fill up on high protein, low calorie meals during the day. That way I'd have leftover calories to enjoy more of what I wanted at night. This helped me feel like I was never really on a restrictive diet. Something that's important to understand with a plan where you track calories is just because you have calories left over, that doesn't mean you need to eat them, especially if you're not hungry. Since I was able to stay on track all day with high protein foods that kept me full, that left me 300 calories under budget for the day, which I saved up to indulge in a weekend meal out. Here's the thing about consistent weight loss. The choices you make in a single day don't make much of a difference on how much weight you lose. Meaning, if you have one perfect day, that doesn't mean your scale will automatically drop the next day. And if you have one day where you completely fall off track, that doesn't mean that you might as well keep going because you already screwed up. Consistent weight loss comes down to making more good choices over the course of a week, and then a month, and then a year. When you quit trying to be perfect, but instead just be as consistent as you can, that's how you get the results you want. So even though my daily routine may seem really disciplined because I track steps and I track workouts, plus I measure and track almost everything I eat, all of that discipline is exactly how I get results. And since I am consistent with tracking every meal and every snack, this discipline allows me to enjoy a meal or two out each week without completely blowing my progress. Of course, being disciplined with my diet and exercise plan doesn't mean I don't also like to cheat my way to better results, because I absolutely do. If you also like to cheat, you can learn my top 5 fat loss cheat codes when you watch this video next.